The fourth industrial revolution is set to be one of the most transformative periods in time, and it will equate to one of the largest transfers of wealth in world history when it's all said and done. This is why we've been paying attention to blockchain, artificial intelligence, and then the next step is making sure that we're going to be quantum proof in our investments, our business, and the very technology, the rails that are being laid right now. Can it handle quantum attacks? This is the next big threat that's being considered. For right now, it's still a few years out, but that timeline, that gap between quantum being a reality, quantum being a real threat, it is shrinking quickly. The good news is that the XRP ledger is already ready and it is being built for the quantum era. We're seeing our developers are already getting it cooking, and I wanted to break it down in simple terms in today's update so that the average person holding a bag of XRP can understand and not have to worry about all this FUD that we're seeing with quantum potentially taking down Bitcoin and other technologies and other issues that are going to arise. I want you to be rest assured that the XRP ledger is already uniquely positioned, and we're solidifying that quantum proof technology that the XRP ledger kind of already has. Project 11 has announced their collaboration with Ripple to advance post-quantum readiness on the XRP ledger ahead of emerging quantum computing threats. Now, the full announcement's available. I'm not going to read it off here just because we're going to summarize what's going on. This is progress on post-quantum migration marching forward. Now, the XRP Ledger Foundation retweets this post, and they say the XRP Ledger is built for the quantum era. It runs on a native account-based architecture with built-in key rotation. And that's the key, literally, right? Pun intended. This allows businesses, projects, and users to seamlessly switch to quantum-resistant signatures while keeping the exact same R addresses their customers already know and trust. Look out for the full audit of the XRP Ledger, network, wallets, and validator layer by Project 11 ahead of quantum-resistant cryptography deployment. So we already have this native key rotation, which is such a big part of this. The quantum threat and the ability to unlock keys, it's only going to get better and better. And the timeline of not having to worry about it and having to really worry about it is not too far off. In fact, I believe that we actually just saw somebody who used AI to break in and basically find the seed phrase to one of their old wallets. I mean, and so between AI and quantum computing, this just accelerates and becomes a real threat over the next few years. The XRP Ledger native key rotation is already one step in protecting us from the quantum threat. And our developers are actively working on this. Ripple partnering up with Project 11. Ripple obviously bringing a lot of their own resources to the table, partnering up with others that have a little bit more expertise. But David has talked about this for years, about how they've already been preparing for quantum computing and quantum technology for years. David himself, obviously, we know some of the connections and where he used to work with the NSA, and his work goes way back to the very beginning of Bitcoin. And it's interesting, I haven't seen David mention any solution for helping Bitcoin become quantum resistant, but we have seen that the work to become quantum proof on the XRP ledger has already been underway, and David has highlighted recently how it's continuing to get better. So we're not fully quantum proof yet, but we're moving in that direction. And when you combine this with all of the other progress and the XRP flywheel that's now spinning and moving and getting faster and faster, you just can't miss it. I mean, if you have a bias and you want to hate on XRP and you got your issue with XRP, there's always going to be those people. But at this point, you can't deny what's happening in front of us. Integration and listings everywhere. Also for issued assets, you're starting to see ROUSD getting listed on more platforms. Why is that important? It's more than just ROUSD. It's an XRP Ledger token getting listed on tier 1 exchanges. So this opens up the door for other tokens, other real-world assets from other legitimate issuers to get listed on tier 1 exchanges as well too. That's absolutely critical. You combine this with lending and vaults that are about to enable yield generation for liquidity. The platforms are already being built. XLS 66D is the amendment. And as soon as it passes and goes live, you are going to see our DeFi take a quantum leap. I'm so excited because we're at the forefront of this. We're watching it all unfold. We're already preparing. We're already, working through how are we going to conduct due diligence on all these platforms? Because before we give up our XRP to anybody, right? We got to protect our XRP from the quantum threat. We got to protect our XRP from the aliens. We know they're coming. We know they want XRP, the intergalactic reserve currency. We got to protect our XRP from those threats. But then as we look to put our XRP to work, we also want to make sure that we don't lose our XRP, that we don't expose our XRP bag that's going to be life-changing, that's going to be generational wealth for so many people. We don't want to give up our XRP to some platform that's going to end up losing it. But we're going to have a full selection of platforms. Once these final amendments and pieces get put in place on the XRP ledger, our DeFi is going to explode. Privacy with zero knowledge proof. Validator UNL sets improving. What they're doing is they're removing validators that aren't as active in the community, in the participation of, the amendment process, of helping to test and improve these things, right? Working on the quantum threat and some of these other things. Or if they're just not even keeping their validator up to date with runtime, we're giving them the boot. And so our UNL list is always being refined. It's always getting better. And we've got a lot of great validators on that list. And the beauty of this process is even if you're not on the UNL list, you can still be a validator. Anybody can set up a validator on the XRP ledger, and it doesn't even cost that much money to do so. Truly permissionless, completely decentralized, and open source. You too can run an XRP ledger validator. And one of the best parts about the XRP ledger validator process is that there is no incentive. We always say the best incentive is no incentive. If you want to help the XRP ledger run, if you want to validate the network and see it move forward, you got to care about our network. You won't make any money for doing so. And so the reason why we say the best incentive is no incentive is that you don't have all this fake activity. You don't have all these people that are just here to extract value and not actually add value, not actually build utility, not build real businesses on the network. And this is why you have a group of validators here on the XRP ledger that truly just care about the health of this network, no matter what's happening to them or, whether it directly, an amendment or something is going to impact their business. They move it forward if it's good for the ledger in their opinion. And we have to come to an 80% consensus, unlike the Bitcoin network, which can be forked with the 51% attack or just the 51% consensus. And people say, hey, yep, we're taking the network this way. You only need 51% for Bitcoin, and you need, similar numbers on a lot of other chains, if you even can change some networks. Some are just centralized. But with the XRP ledger, completely decentralized, and when our validators come to that 80% agreement, we move forward with amendments, with the next block. That's true decentralization at work. And then finally, we're just actively replacing traditional finance with DeFi. And like I said, as this programmability gets better on the XRP ledger, more builders and developers come in. That's going to attract more liquidity. XRP yield, and I'm going to point out this comment right here from Vet right here. This person says, yield is quickly becoming a native feature of blockchain infrastructure. Vet says it's a strong gravitational force for liquidity. And that liquidity begets liquidity. Right? When people realize, oh, wow, I can finally put my XRP to work, right? That drives more demand to XRP, and that locks up more XRP and yield opportunities. And that is such a gravitational force. That is going to pull so much liquidity into XRP. And then that XRP gets parked. It's not available for cross-border payments. It's not available for any other utility. It's not available for any other liquidity. It's being parked. And that person is just going to hold on to that XRP, generate their passive income off the yield, and they might never sell their XRP ever again. Raise your hand if you plan on doing that with a large portion of your bag. Thank you very much. Now, I'm not in a rush to do so, We're going to sit back, conduct our due diligence on all these platforms, but he who owns the gold makes the rules, or at least gets to decide, who gets to use our gold, who's going to hold our gold and help us generate some cash flow with said gold. And I'm, of course, talking about our XRP, right? We get to decide what platforms we want to use, how much risk we want to take, and how much yield we want to try to generate. And it's only going to get better from here. And so the XRP ledger getting ready to become fully quantum proof, but we're already uniquely positioned with a competitive advantage. And then the amendments and that DeFi coming to the XRP ledger, it's not being talked about enough. Even a lot of OG XRP holders, I think, are trying to grasp what this actually looks like, what will actually be available, what you'll actually be able to do with your XRP. But just understand at a higher level, in just a simple statement, you're about to become your own bank. And all you got to do is secure your XRP, hold it safely, keep it secure. They're going to work and make sure it's quantum proof. And then our DeFi is about to explode. XRP price appreciation to follow. If you guys appreciate this update, please help us out by smacking it, tapping it, sharing it out far and wide. And all of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. I greatly appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.